Welcome to our last class where we're going to try to integrate all of the vast amounts of information we have gotten and what we can take into our own personal practices after this point, after this class. So we started with the change maker mindset. We're going to recap. I will give you a deeper dive into some resources. I will share with you my own personal call to action, and I will also ask you to share your thoughts and share your final project on the class dashboard. In our first module, we looked at the state of the art and explored the environmental impact and rate of consumption of costume designers and how we link back to the fashion industry and how we can use film as a means to explore more sustainable storylines and more sustainable practices that can inspire a new generation of designers and makers. And we also looked at our stakeholders, being the studios, the producers, and how to approach requirements for more sustainable practices in our production. In our second module, fashion footprint, we went through what an environmental profit and loss means. We analyzed our own shopping habits, and I gave you some references of different fashion footprint calculators and different carbon calculators and trainings that you can access on your own. In our third class, the 7 R's of costuming, we went through zero waste ideology and practices. We talked about the 7 R's being recycle, repair, rent, reuse, reduce, resale, and repurpose as per Fashion Takes Action initiative. And then we broke them down even further for our own purposes in the costume department. So we talked about applicable tips and practices for ourselves. Then we talked about ethical sourcing. We talked about sustainable brands, what that means and how to find them. We briefly dove into fiber or material literacy, and I explained to you a little bit about certifications, and we dove a little bit deeper into the GOTS Certified Organic Cotton Certification, what that means, and how to discern what sustainable brands' commitments to sustainability really is. Next, we talked about garment care. We went through care labels and also talked about various stains and how to remove them safely in a sustainable way. We went through washing chemicals to avoid and potential zero waste products that you could alternate in your production for maybe more polluting ones that you're using currently. We talked about microplastics and why mitigating microplastic waste is important and how to do that with different filters. And we talked about eco dry cleaning or wet cleaning and what practices they use versus conventional dry cleaning that make them more sustainable. Then we talked about mitigating waste in 2 parts. So first we looked at fiber waste, which was broken down into donating, reselling, composting, and recycling, and some services that are out there that you can set up a system with your production before the run of the show to have that be accessible to you through the run of the show. Then we also looked at mitigating plastic waste and various alternatives to disposables that we use a lot in the costuming department. We looked at hazardous materials. We dove deep into chemicals to avoid and what their effects are on human health and on the environment, and a little bit on personal protection equipment and safe working conditions. Lastly, we took a brief introduction into material innovations in digital fabrications. As I mentioned, these are 2 separate classes that I will be developing further for you. If you're interested in that captured your imagination in any way and you want to learn more, stay tuned. Again, we're going through some local resources. If you're situated here in Toronto in this film hub, these are some for you. Although some of these are local to Toronto, they also have services for consulting online, and also some of them you can find in your own areas. For instance, FiberShed is a network that is connecting farmers and fiber producers and crafters, dyers, and garment designers, all in the same buyer region, the same hub. So there's definitely one in your area. Check it out so that you can connect with some of these local makers and local fiber producers. The Sustainable Media Production Guide of Canada is Canada-wide, but they also have a lot of best practices and tips that are applicable to any other buyer region, whether that be in the States or Europe or South America, wherever it is that you are creating visual media. Creative Reuse Toronto is just our local crafting hub. Find a crafting hub in your area that you can work in tandem with so that they can get some materials at a more accessible price or for free, and you can help divert those materials from wasteland. Asket is a brand that creates sustainable menswear, but they also have a lot of guides on their website for how to care for your garments more sustainably and how to source sustainable garments. The Clothes of Your Rack is here in Toronto as well. And my call to action here would be, if there isn't an organization like this in your area, maybe you, your friends, or somebody that you know would be interested in creating one. This is a non-for-profit that links up film industry wardrobe departments with homeless people. So giving a lot of those garments that will not find a second home to people who need it most. Ontario Green Screen. This is again specific to Ontario, but they do also have a lot of carbon calculator trainings and various guides and best practices that are applicable globally. If you are a fashion and fiber nerd and a sustainability nerd, this is the slide is for you. I will recommend really all of these as reports and databases that you can dive deeper into all of these concepts that I have provided for you. The costume directory is an amazing one. Search that on your search engine or go to the Albert website where you can find a massive directory for all kinds of global suppliers, recyclers, sustainable brands, just anything that you could need as a costumer in any which country of the world. There's at least a couple of options up there, and some of the more populated ones are obviously where the bigger film hubs are. But yeah, it's an amazing resource. Material District, if you want to know more about materials, this is a good online hub. Fashion Revolution has a lot of reports on the fashion industry and various large brands' impact and reports on traceability, sustainability, and accountability. So you can read through some of those. They put them out yearly. Sustainable Fashion Glossary by Condé Nast. If you are just want to get more familiar with what sustainability in fashion means and some of the terminology and concepts around what sustainable fashion looks like. The Future Fabrics Expo is an amazing repertoire of all kinds of fabrics and fibers, from the newer material innovations to recycled fibers and fabrics to regenerative agriculture and organic certified fabrics. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation is that tiny icon you see right at the bottom. That one also an amazing foundation that has a lot of reports on the fashion industry and environmental impacts. And Caring is where you can find the environmental profit and loss calculators. You can partner up with Caring or reach out to them for consultation if this is something that is interesting to you, which is to quantify the capital loss to nature from the malpractices of your industry or your production. And these are film specific, not fashion or costume specific, but they're amazing resources. The Creative BC has created the Real Green Climate Change and Sustainable Production course. So you can reach out to them and look at when they're offering that. It's all online. They also have carbon calculator trainings quite often. The Creative Industries Pact for Sustainable Action and Sustainable Production forums are great places where you can find best practices guidelines. the Green Spark Group and Green Production Guide. Again, great places that have consultancies and best practices guidelines. These are obviously not the only ones, but they're the most sort of active groups in sustainability and film that are out there, especially in North America. And again, just want to give a shout out to some of these waste mitigation companies. Earth Angel is a sustainable production consultancy, but they also have services and they will partner up with your production to create to place those systems for the run of your show. Queen of Raw, an online marketplace where you can sell and buy dead stock fabrics just by setting an account with them. True Zero Waste is a zero waste certification system. If you want to get deeper into zero waste practices and actually get certified and get your team certified, that's an option for you there as well. Here's a huge list of dive deeper material. Anywhere from podcasts to documentaries to magazine articles. So you can take a screen grab of this if that's interesting to you and take on some reading in your own time. Some documentaries I recommend more specifically for the fashion industry, which is intrinsically linked with costuming, as we've talked about. It are The Next Black. Here you'll also see outlined a lot of these new innovations in biomaterials and in digital fabrication. It's an amazingly done documentary. Vice Sustainable Fashion is a short documentary on new practices, new brands, new designers thinking about sustainability in fashion. Detox Our Future is a campaign by Greenpeace. They are talking here more about the intensive chemical industry that is linked with fashion production. And the true cost is a big dive into fast fashion and the detriments to society, economy, health of environment, ecosystems, and human health and well-being. Join the costume revolution. This is me. If you want to check out any of my work and reach out, create a collaboration. So stay in touch and post anything that is relevant to any of the topics we covered here, anywhere from activism to new materials to innovations to resources. And let's grow the community in this way. Thank you so much for spending time with me and stay tuned for more classes on Skillshare.